On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're heading to Austin, Texas to explore 3 stunning homes, each with its own distinct charm. First, we step into a once builder-grade house, now transformed into a serene retreat with a soothing, neutral palette. Next, we visit a ranch-style home where old-world elegance meets a carefully curated collection of antiques. And finally, we explore a breathtaking mid-century modern home where natural materials seamlessly connect the indoors with the beautiful surrounding landscape. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Scan the QR code to subscribe to our new channel, Weddingworthy, where we celebrate amazing couples and the love stories behind their perfect day.
Hi Homeworthy, my name is Laura Williams and I am the owner of ATX Interior Design. Welcome to my house here in Austin, Texas. Welcome to my home. This house was built in the 90s and it has been a labor of love. It's gone through a lot of iterations from when we first started working on this home 7 years ago. We came from Florida, so it's been a big transition to move from my tropical type of styling to where I've transitioned to today. But I feel like you'll see hints of the natural woven materials and things that I like from Florida that I always used and tried and true, and kind of elevated it and matched it with maybe some moody colors or different tones, and kind of bringing it all together to kind of create my own style, which is very cozy, lived in. I try to make it elevated but also approachable. So I have a busy family. I have a 5 and 7-year-old. My husband and I both work full time, and we have 2 furry friends here that have decided to join us for this. And so this home is very well lived, and I'm very proud of it. So I'm happy to show you around. So here in our entryway, we definitely, when I first came in, this place needed it was a builder grade home. It needed some architectural interest, if you will. So I put in some of this wainscoting. I love what it can do because it's understated, but it really elevates a space to make it feel special. Something I also like to do is to add in some greenery. I have, this is real, but then that one's faux. It's okay to mix it if it looks good. And also mixing materials with my wood tones, a little woven here like I mentioned, marble. And then this is actually special, and you'll see these paintings sprinkled throughout my house. This is actually painted by my great-grandmother. And so it's pretty special that I was able to steal some of them from my parents and put in my home. They were happy to share with me. So yes, something else I did was I added in these black woven pendants, which are super oversized and beautiful. The one thing people say 8 times out of 10 when they come into my house, if they've never been here before, is, "Oh my goodness, I love those lights. Where did you get them?" Of course, now they don't make them, but I did get them from Article, like 7 years ago. And I just really love that. Again, they're a woven, natural feeling light, but since they're black, they're a little bit more, stand out a little bit more, a little more special. And this is Delilah. She wants to be a star. She's like, this is my time to shine. Another thing we brought in here was the woven rug for the entryway. It's nice to have somewhere to wipe your feet when you come inside, and bringing in another natural element. Different textures are really important to me. I tend to be drawn to just layering in textures with all of my designs, and so that's something I try to do, whether it's through accent decor or, you know, on the pieces themselves. This is from Four Hands, and this is just one of my favorite pieces because it pulls a different wood tone than what you're normally looking at. Especially my floor I have is, I put in this acacia hand scraped engineered hardwood, and it's great. You know, it's become a little bit lived in. It's definitely patinaed over time, if you will, because I have young children, and you kind of have to accept that that's going to happen over time if you will get the real wood versus, you know, a laminate or something to that extent. But I love this wood because it's so dimensional. The colors are so varying throughout, and as you go through the home, I have them everywhere in my home. I did the entire space in this wood. And actually we started only on the first floor and kept the carpet upstairs, and then we decided it was time to move forward and do another, you know, layer of renovations, which my poor husband, he has to deal with it all the time. I'm always like, ooh, what if we change this? This will be so fun. And he's always, do we have to? Like, we just got, you know, we just got back to normalcy. But it's the dangerous part of my job is that my brain's always going and wanting to change things. Which actually brings me into the dining room, because this room has actually seen a lot of different iterations. Again, we've got some woven, we have some elevated light, you know, but I brought the wainscoting in here as well. And this has been painted by me. I tend to paint when my husband goes on business trips. And he comes home and he's like, oh, you painted the dining room again, okay. But he always likes it, so it's good. But when we first had all the work done to our home, this was a nice pale green color with white up here. It was very sweet, I loved it, but then I wanted to change, and I painted it like a charcoal color called Cheating Heart by Benjamin Moore, which I have sprinkled throughout my house, and so you'll hear me say that paint color again because it's one of my favorites. But, and I had that for a while with the Cheating Heart down here and white up here. Started to feel a little farmhousey, especially with my staircase and the matte black iron. So then I moved into this Waterloo most recently. I did this maybe a year ago. And it has actually really transformed the space. And I brought it all the way to the ceiling because I just kind of wanted to not fully color drenched, but get it as much color drenched as I could. My ceiling continues out of this space and into other areas, so there isn't a definitive cutoff in here. So I had to stop it with the trim above, but I love this color. So one of my favorite things about my dining room is actually this one-of-a-kind painting by Eileen Fitzgerald. She's actually a local artist, but she is world-renowned. You can buy her art in a lot of different big stores. She's extremely talented, and over time I've become her friend, which is, you know, very nice because she's as kind as she is talented. So we went to her art show and I saw this there and I was like, that needs to be in my dining room, because it just, like, the blues from here pull from this Waterloo color up here. It's just so stunning. And what's amazing is that this is very different from her normal pieces. So the fact that we have such a special piece is very cool, and I'm very appreciative that she made this one-of-a-kind piece, and it's here in my home, so I feel very grateful for that. Another thing, I like to bring in a lot of different, again, neutrals, but then I want it, you know, with the blue, you can't have too many things. But this is a nice textile. So the fact that we have a velvety drape here is just a nice touch to soften the space a little bit, so it's not too dark and muted, but it's still a nice neutral taupe color. And it ties into these Four Hands chairs. This is from the Amber Lewis collection, and I love them. What's nice is, you know, you have your leather here, and then the woven, again, another woven detail. I'm realizing now that I have so many woven details in my house, more than I even thought. But again, mixing the wood tones with the wood tone here versus the wood tone from my table and also her frame tying in a little bit more taupe and a different layer of something that is adding an element that is not greenery, but still gives the same effect of a little bit of life in here. And then we have our last family member here. This is Linda the fish. She lives in the dining room, so she gets to stare at the artwork all the time. She's the luckiest one probably of all of us. We got Linda because my son got a goldfish at the rodeo and the goldfish did not survive. So now we have Linda, the betta fish, who will hopefully survive longer than, you know, that goldfish did. So when we first moved into this house, it actually was a little bit more closed off here. So this was not open. The stair came all the way down to where you can see this post is here. And there was a little bit of an opening at the bottom. And also there was an archway, you know, like one of those, not, you know, like one of those fake archways where it just had curves on either side. So I removed those. I wanted it to feel more expansive and open in here. So when I was designing the space, the biggest thing I wanted to create was sight lines throughout. And I really wanted a wow moment when you walked in the door, which I think we achieved with the stairs like this, so that you can really see straight out into the yard with the windows. One of the most beautiful things about this home is the fact that we have so much natural light that comes in. Being able to bring the eye straight from the front door to the backyard has been a really special thing. So I think next we should travel into the music room. It's right here off of the entry and dining area. And it's actually one of my most favorite spaces in the house. So let's go on over there. So here we are in the music room. This is my most favorite room in the house, I think, because it has a lot of special things. First of all, this piano has been in my family for years. My mom got this piano when she was 5 years old. She learned how to play on it. When my parents got married, my dad is a musician and professional musician, and he plays the piano beautifully, teaches voice lessons, also plays organ, all the fun stuff. So I grew up in a very musical family. I studied music for years, and so I always took piano lessons, learned on this piano. All my voice lessons that I had were while my father was, or anything that I had singing, it was with this piano. And so this was very special. My parents actually retired from their jobs last year and moved here from Florida. And when they did that, they downsized to a smaller house and therefore could not fit this beautiful baby. And so I said I would take it off their hands. And so when they moved here, they brought the piano, and now it lives with me, which brings me so much joy that now my children can learn on this piano. And it's just very special. And then as you can see, we have a collection of guitars here. My husband used to be in a band. He went on Warped Tour, did all that fun stuff. So we have a lot of fun playing music together as a family. So this is just a really special space where we can just kind of unite and be together and sing around the piano and with a guitar. It sounds so silly, but that was my life growing up. We always, you know, we're singing around after dinner, playing guitar. And so it's fun that we can do that here in my home as well. Some beautiful design elements that I really like. Having, you know, an approachable, but this is still a little bit more upscale than your typical, you know, armchairs. But I love this because, you know, you can sit here comfortably enough, and it swivels, which is kind of fun. But you can sit here comfortably enough, play the guitar, and be together as a unit. But anyway, so some nice things I like to do, bringing in some light and dark everywhere. When you have you know, this is a pretty massive piece, and it's very dark, and it's weighted pretty heavily. So I wanted to bring in some lighter textiles on the chairs. So, you know, we've got a nice, I would say like an oatmeal-y beige, if you will, here, but then still tying in the black with the table and the planter, all the different details, just to kind of balance the space a little bit more. Again, with the nice drapes that will go floor to ceiling, and a beautiful velvety material just to soften it up a little bit. I also like to add in a lot of different patterns throughout. If you see my pillows that I have everywhere, they kind of soften it up with different, we have some floral pillows, some geometric pillows, some stripes. It's just nice to kind of change it up everywhere and have a balance of it not all being the same. And again, my style is very much a cozy, lived-in style. I don't want this place to feel like a museum. Also, with my kids, I want them to be able to sit and eat anywhere. I want them to be able to just relax in their homes, and that's very hard to do when you care too much about all of the little things, the knickknacks of this or that. So I've just decided that it's fine, and we're gonna just do our best to take care of what we have and make it comfortable and cozy for a family to live and be and spend time together. Some other elements in this space, again, I'm realizing I'm a woven machine now. I thought that I only put it in the house a little bit, and now I'm seeing it everywhere. This beautiful pendant up here above the piano. When you come in, it's fun to have like a moment where, since this is right off the entryway, you walk in the front door and you see the piano and this beautiful light above it, and it just feels very special to me. And I really, once we got this piano, I wanted this to be the showstopper as you come in. And I think highlighting it with this light right here as you walk in, it's like, oh, you're like, here I am in this beautiful space with, a musical family that this is such a big piece of us. So it's pretty cool. And then another thing I like to always do is bring in some greenery. So here you see it all throughout. It's fun to have it in different spaces. And here, actually, this is a special pedestal that I also got at Round Top. It's funny because I go and I source for clients all the time, but I end up bringing a lot of things to my own house. It's a dangerous thing to be in this industry because you see all the beautiful things all the time and you just want it in your own home. So it is what it is. It's just the nature of the game, I guess. Another thing, actually, this lamp is so special because I actually renovated a client's kitchen, and this was from her dad's collection of things, and he was getting ready to move and was downsizing, elderly gentleman in his 70s or maybe even 80s, and that was one of her mom's, and I was able to get that from them. I saw it and I was just like, that is so beautiful and special. You don't really see authentic lamps like this anymore. They just don't make them like they used to. So I really love that, and that's very special to me. Something also that we did in here when we renovated, again, this had those little archways at the top, so I removed those and created a little bit more of a straight sight line, if you will. But this is actually a double-sided fireplace. The fireplace was not on this side of the room at all. It was only on the opposite side, which is actually the living room. And so I had in my brain that I wanted a double-sided fireplace. And actually, when we were searching for a home, I was looking for opportunities to put a double-sided fireplace in somewhere. That, and also a massive island, which when we go into the kitchen, you'll see my dreams came true because it's entirely too large, but I love it, and it's fun for hosting and everything, but I digress. So this fireplace was a very exciting thing for me. This was just a regular wall. This would probably be considered the formal living room when the house was built in the 90s, and I feel like we've changed it so much from what it was when we first came in to how it is now. Adding in additional seating that's just built in, an opportunity to display more artwork, another piece for my great-grandmother, which is pretty special. And, another place to put some nice greenery and really make it feel lived in and cozy and inviting. So here, again, I can display my pillows. This is cozy for anybody to sit. And in the winter, it's actually so nice. I have this fireplace on every single morning. I like to get up early. My routine is my alarm goes off at 5 and I have to start getting my kids ready at 6. So then from 5 to 6, I'm able to drink my coffee, look through emails, get my day sorted, and just kind of get my life together before the chaos of motherhood ensues a little bit. So it's really nice for me to have all these different options of places to go and escape, especially since when you do have kids, spaces get messy. They're not always clean. I'd love to say that my house looks like this all the time. It doesn't. It took a lot of preparation to have every space be perfectly beautiful for this right now, but I do my best. But it's nice to have different areas that you can go to where you can have a peaceful moment where it is clean, it is lovely, and there aren't toys that you can trip on or anything. And so this creates a moment for me here. Something else that we did in the music room is create a cased opening into the living room so that we can actually enjoy the space and have it flow together. So on the other side of this fireplace, I created this cased opening. So it is, again, a defined space, like I was saying before, but we do have some united areas where you can go in the flow. And especially, I keep bringing it back to the family aspect, but this is our family home. We are here. I'm planning on being here until my kids graduate from high school. So since, this is the place where they're little to big, it's important to have some definition, but then also some flow where if they've got their tricycle and they're going in circles around the fireplace, which they have done many times, there's a way to do that, and it's safe, and it's inside controlled chaos, which I think is the key to family life, is just having controlled chaos, because there will be chaos, and having it be not too crazy is great. So traveling then from the music room, we're here in the living room, which I try to make as cozy as possible. The big comfy couch, places where lots of bodies can sit and snuggle up. We joke because I can put my head here and my husband can put his head on the other side, and our feet actually just touch. And then normally we have each of us a child on us, which is fun for us because we like to watch movies. This is where we like to be cozy together. Most important thing about when designing a home for me is creating a space that you want to be in. You want to spend time with your family, and you want people to come visit and want to stay. But then, you have to kick them out eventually. But having a place where you can be cozy together, spend time together, and something that I always think about is when my kids are teenagers, I want our house to be the house where they bring their friends so we can still be a part of their lives and be around. But I don't want to be the parent that says, no, you can't go here. Just creating a space where your kids want to be, where their friends want to be, and it be a fun and nice atmosphere for them, and a safe environment. If it's your own home, it's a little bit more controlled, if you will. So some wonderful things in this space that I love. Again, the oversized couch, the oversized coffee table, this fun little ottoman. It's nice to add in some different patterns. You'll see I have a lot of different patterns in here, which you would think would feel chaotic or crazy, which maybe it is to some people, but to me, I think it makes it feel more approachable and livable and cozy to have all of these different elements. So we've got our stripes here. There's a little floral pattern, some checkered, and then of course on the couch, we've got it all. So it's fun to bring in all these different elements and textures and patterns through the accessories. And also, I change my accessories all the time. It's so easy to take off a pillowcase and put on a new pillowcase. So with the season, I often do that because it's fun to switch it up. And also, like I said before, I like to change things up because, not that I get bored of it, but I see new things and it's exciting and fun for me. Something special in here that I did a little differently from the dining room is actually bringing the wainscoting all the way to the ceiling. I wanted the wall to feel special. So actually this is where, back to school day photos, I always do in front of this. Anytime I my kids are in a cute outfit, I'm like, oh, go pose in front of the wall. They know what that means when I say go in front of the wall, because this is where we take all of our photos, which is nice to have a space where I can actually, not have it just be a normal Texas textured wall, or it's not heavily patterned or a color to where, it may not go with what you have going on, in your outfit or what you're doing. So it's fun. My husband and daughter went to a father-daughter dance recently, and so I did like their prom pictures, if you will, here in front of the wall, which was really fun. So it's nice to bring it all the way to the ceiling. The smaller boxes add a little bit more of an element. In the other room, I had the base and, a longer one on the bottom and a shorter one here. I wanted the evenly spaced floor to ceiling here. And it also highlights our staircase a little bit differently, which is kind of fun. Something else I like to do is, in order to fit more bodies in places, again, we like to host a lot. What's fun is these are little swivel stools. Little stools and ottomans are so easy to just move around. I like to have all of my girlfriends over for wine nights. We'll go, everybody gets their kids to bed, and then they come over and we'll have wine, and I'll have 15 women in here, and we're all there's plenty of seats all in this one room, which is really fun. And so that's something that I always like to encourage my clients to do, is have little ottomans or poofs or areas where people can sit that aren't the floor, even though I'm ready to get on the floor anytime. I'm okay with sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor and being comfortable, but it's nice for people who don't want to do that to have options. So we've got another bench on the fireplace like we do on the other side with some cozy pillows, and then all of this, which is nice to be able to have a space for as many people as possible. Also, with us being the first ones in our family to come here, a lot of our extended family comes, and they'll come and stay with us. And so when we're all spending time together, it's nice to have enough space for everybody to sit, play a game at the coffee table, and go from there. What's funny about this couch is I actually used to have a nice taupe colored couch in here, but after we got Delilah a couple years ago, I realized that my fear of having a white couch was then outweighed by having white hair all over the taupe couch. So I'd rather not know the hair is there and have it be hidden inside of the couch, with the same color as her, instead of seeing it everywhere. And my kids are actually pretty good with the white couch. I'm not too afraid of them staining it. And, if they drop something, they wipe it up. They've learned. So it's not too bad, but she's dictated which couch to have in this home because of her nice blonde hair. So back over to this styling moment here. I like to have a nice way to display some of the things that I've collected over time, pieces of artwork. This up here is actually a photograph from my photographer from her travels. And so she's very talented, and she likes to do travel photography as well. So she always photographs all of my projects. Her name is Madeline Harper, and she also photographs during her travels all over the world. So that's special to me. I like to keep that there. I have family photos down here, and then also some special pieces of art. The sunset is actually from our niece. She painted that. And actually next year she's going to school for interior design. So I'm very excited because she's going to be so much better than I am. She's going to have all the education, and I can't wait. I'm going to steal her and make her join my team. And then this actually is from my best friend, who is a ceramicist. And I actually have her stuff all over my house, sprinkled around, mostly in the kitchen, and I'll point those out. But Allie Bond, she is a very talented ceramicist in Austin, Texas. And so it's fun to have a place to kind of showcase things that you care about, photos, and of course layering in different textiles. Greenery, again, is key. As you can see, I live in a botanical garden in this home, and it's good for the air quality, and it makes you happy to have living things around you beyond the sleepy dog on the couch. So if we transition into the kitchen here, This space was probably the biggest transformation, just from a structural standpoint. As you can see, I have a post here. This is structural. I could have very well put in a beam. It was gonna cost us an arm and a leg, and this is not too intrusive. So we kept the post here, and there was a wall. And then over on this side of the kitchen was just a breakfast nook with, just a basic chandelier and an empty space. And then over here, you had your sink facing out that way, and a teeny tiny island over here, and that was it. But when we were searching for homes in Austin, I wanted to be able to have a massive island. So I think this thing is like 14 feet, which sounds ridiculous. Like, who needs a 14-foot island? I don't know why it was so important to me, but when we were searching that, I just wanted to have a space where we could have as many people over as we wanted and gather around. We have an uni pizza maker, and I can't tell you how many times we've thrown pizza making parties, and we'll get all the dough and all the kids will sit at the island and they'll all take turns and they'll have all their toppings, and this whole thing is filled with flour and dough and the cheese is flying, and it's just such a fun space to be to gather and to be around. And I love to host parties for all of our friends, baby showers, all of that. So this is always where we, do the buffet of food, which is really fun. Some special details in the kitchen that I appreciate, of course, the lighting. It is very oversized. Most people don't want a 24-inch pendant above their island, but the space allows for it. And I feel like there's enough visibility and light that moves through this to where it doesn't feel intrusive or stuffy. So I love this element. And again, it's something that evolved and changed through time of us living here, and also my taste evolving and changing too. So again, something I like to tie in, the woven elements. They just make you feel like you want to sit down. So I love these bar stools, or counter height stools, are so sturdy, and I like that they bring in the black. So again, I'm bringing in touches of black everywhere, but I don't want it to feel like you're in, a white and black house. So these neutral, natural elements are key. I always, always, always have fresh flowers on the counter. And if I don't, it's because they just died and I had to throw them away and haven't made it to the store yet. So I love to bring in fresh flowers as much as possible. And that's just another thing to make this home feel cozy, welcoming, and inviting. A special thing about our island is I did put the sink inside of it, purely because we had the plumbing right there from where it was before when they had that peninsula jetting out. And so I said, all right, let's just keep it there. It's not going to be centered. This is kind of a weird space where you would think you would want your vent hood to be the center of the space. That is what you're looking at. I feel like in here, because of where our windows are, because of the cabinetry layout, we could not have that symmetrical moment. So I ran with it and I created smaller symmetrical moments. So the kitchen is kind of split by the sink, and I have symmetrical moment over here with the open shelves on either side of your vent hood and range. And then on the other side, I have, just a beautiful bar area where I like to, I have a wine fridge, and some some potted flowers in the window. So again, another natural element. I love having opportunities to display things. Now, people will say open shelving in kitchens are silly because they need to hold things for you. Luckily, this kitchen has enough hidden storage to where I can utilize this as decorative space, but also I like to make it functional. So these black plates and bowls over here are actually the bowls and plates that I use every single day. We have our cereal in this. These are our dinner plates that we use on the regular. And so they'll say, people ask about, what about dust? What about this? If you're using them all the time, they're not going to get dusty. So that's kind of where I am on the open shelf argument. And I also like to have an opportunity to display beautiful things like my cookbooks and More plants, of course, because why not? Moving on to the other half of the kitchen, which was previously the breakfast nook. So in here, they actually had taller windows. We ended up replacing all the windows in the house over time, but the initial replacement of windows was in the back of the house because the sun comes in here in the afternoon and it's so hot. So we had to change that immediately when we first moved in. That was one of the first things. So since we were doing that anyway, I wanted to have more storage, more opportunities for entertainment space. I wanted a wine fridge because I love red wine. And so I designed this space to really just house a lot more of our utensils, some, you know, the napkins, the this, the that, all the cooking supplies, the baking supplies. They all live here. We actually use this space here for all of our pet food, the treats, all of that. So it's nice to have all these spaces kind of thoughtfully planned out to where you can decrease your clutter in your home by having a dedicated space for everything. And when you have a space that allows it, obviously that's helpful. But yeah, these beautiful windows overlooking the magnolia trees here in our neighborhood. You know, the houses are not terribly close, but they're not terribly far. And so when I put in these windows, we were talking about, well, now we're just gonna be staring at our neighbor's, you know, driveway right there. And so we put in these magnolia trees, and they were much, much smaller when we first did it. And so it's been such a nice treat to see them grow. And I was hoping that we would have the open buds when you guys were here, but we missed it. That was last week. So, but they're still beautiful, and I enjoy seeing them every day. This is a fun spot because if I'm working from home, and I love to just sit at the island here and look out these windows, and it just helps me to have a nice, you know, calming moment while I'm working. When you're seeing nature, but you're still inside because it's extremely hot outside here. So oftentimes when I'm entertaining, I'll put, you know, wine out here, charcuterie board, just so that it can feel, you know, welcoming, but then it's not too in your face. I think Delilah wants to go outside, so why don't we travel outside, and I'd love to show you what we've done with our backyard. Come on. Okay, welcome to the backyard. This space has transformed probably just as much as the inside, if not more. So when we first moved into this house, there was a wooden deck painted like a reddish stain, and you know, with a picnic bench and all the fun things. It was very nice, but we wanted to put in a pool. So actually in 2020, we gutted the entire yard. So I was very excited when we did this. We kind of created a really awesome oasis out here that I love. So if we want to start here, a nice outdoor kitchen. We put in a pour spout. We actually don't even drink beer, but we can create our own cocktails here. So I've made a margarita and put it on tap, which is kind of fun. There's a beverage fridge here, and then the taps go under here. Little vegetable and herb garden up on our privacy fence. Again, like I said, inside, you know, we can kind of see into our neighbor's yard quite a bit. And so having this privacy fence has created a more intimate space here for, you know, just our family to be and sit and eat together. Of course, the twinkle lights always add a nice element when you're in an outdoor space, kind of makes it feel special. Something else that's interesting up here is this guy. This is a cold plunge. My husband and I have gone through phases where we do it more often than not. I'm in the less often phase, but I think since now we're nearing super, super hot months, I will probably be doing it more often, but we try to cold plunge like once a week at least. But my husband has gone through phases where he will do it more frequently than that. But it's funny because we've had pool parties with all of our friends, and it's turned into a plunge party, and everybody, even the 5 and 6 year olds, will like jump in and jump out, and then they like start going crazy because they think they've just accomplished the most difficult thing ever, which it is very difficult. So it's kind of fun to have it here in a place where, because we've talked about moving it into other areas down here so it's not a focal point when you first come out. But if it's down there, no one's going to use it. So it's kind of fun that it's become an activity where people come over and get to hop into the plunge. And also we love fitness, we love to work out, and it feels really good after a long hot run to hop in this guy. So it's kind of fun. Moving this way, we have a hot tub here, which anybody who has small children knows that having a date night doesn't happen as frequently as you'd like. So it's really nice to have a spot where kids are in bed, we can just kind of depart a little bit and just like spend evenings here in the hot tub, relaxing, catching up on our day. And so I love this here, and it's beautiful because it overlooks the hills that we have here in West Austin. Something kind of special in our yard, again, we tried to create some privacy. Not like we're the most private people, but when you live in a neighborhood where the homes are a little bit closer together, it's nice to create some definition of your space to where people aren't in your business all the time. And so we put in these bamboo around the pool, which was crazy to see how they've grown. So we've cut this back twice this season already, and it is just crazy. But when we put them in, it was just small sticks that didn't even go up to the fence, and now they're just towering over. So it's been really cool to see how they've grown and gotten so much fuller and larger, and they've really done exactly what we wanted them to do, which is create privacy around the pool when we're swimming with our family and have loved ones over. We don't need our neighbors peering into the pool area. So, and actually we have a nature belt behind us, and so there's a trail, so people are walking back there pretty frequently for exercise and just to go for hikes. And so with that, it's nice to have the bamboo along the back side as well. Over here on this side of the pool area, we have our fire pit, which has actually become a really nice little cozy spot to come. When we have family visit, this is where we like to congregate in the evenings and just kind of relax. The kids will be swimming, and typically when my sister will come, we'll just sit out here. I'll have a glass of wine and we can just relax together. We have a designated gas line that comes directly to here. Originally, I thought I wanted the fire pit closer to the back door, but I love that we brought it out here because then it kind of separates it and also allows for enough room for us to actually enjoy that area up there for dining and things to that degree. So, and then of course, the pool loungers, everybody loves to just relax and get some sun. Some nice shade though for when it's a day like today where we might be getting a little hot and need to protect ourselves from the sun a little bit. Over here on the other side of the yard is kind of the fun zone for the kids when we're not in the pool. So we have our trampoline down here. That was kind of an important part of this whole thing, was where are we going to put a playscape or a trampoline. When we first built this area, there was a playscape, but now it is a trampoline zone just because my kids will come out and they will jump for hours and hours. So that has become a really staple spot. And again, with all the different levels, we had to be really strategic with all the steps, where we're putting steps, how we're doing that. Over here, we have all these beautiful oak trees, and we tried twice to lay sod, and it was not sticking because of these beautiful oak trees. So we put down turf, and it's been amazing. It's a great place to come and relax. The kids will play soccer out here. They'll climb the rope. My daughter, when she was little, well, she's still little, she's 7, but when she was like 3 or 4, she would climb and go up that rope and think that she was climbing Rapunzel's hair. So that's kind of a fun little thing, but we love this space. So this is a fun little area to just relax. All of the kids come and play, and swings galore, soccer net. Delilah likes to hang out here as well. So it's fun. And then it's cool that our whole backyard has turned into a little bit of a loop here to where you can go and kind of experience the whole space in one foul swoop. Is pretty fun. I continued the railings out here to look similar to the inside. A lot of what I like to do with design when I'm doing something in the outside is I like to marry the two spaces together. So a lot of the elements of the contrast, the warmth with different materials, greenery, wood tones, all of that I like to incorporate in an outdoor space as well. I think we've gotten enough heat outside here, so let's go ahead and travel back inside. We have some more areas to explore. This is our home office. Back to that paint color I said I mentioned that I really loved. It's called Cheating Heart by Benjamin Moore. I painted my husband's doors to his office that color. I think the same day that I painted that, but then that was changed. The dining room was changed, and now it still lives on these doors. But I like it because it brings that depth and that darkness without it being a stark black color. So in his office, we've got Kitty in here now. We wanted to make this space feel special. He is on his computer on Zoom calls all the time, and so it's nice and important for him to have a nice background. Again, with more guitars. I think that he has collected more guitars than I can count, and he trades them out and all the fun stuff. It's fun for him. It's a hobby to collect guitars. So I always like, hey, let's display them, and then it can be a beautiful feature as well. So it's a win-win for both of us. We put up this nice slat wall actually not too long ago because I feel like it just felt really messy in here, and this kind of just gave this space a purpose. He's less likely to kind of leave a mess in front of it of miscellaneous things if it's beautiful and he's proud of it. So we created this over here, and oftentimes, you know, when you're on a call, you need to step away from your computer, retreat somewhere else. I like to always put a comfy chair inside of an office so that you have a place where you can kind of step away for a second, regroup, and get back into it. And then my husband has more books than even this, but we've tailored it down a little bit, but he loves to read different business books all the time, so this is where he collects it. And again, there's plenty of storage for all of his knickknacks, all of his gadgets, all of that fun stuff. So this is our home office, and it is maybe used second as much like to the kitchen. So the kitchen's probably the most used. This might be the second most used room in the house. Okay, I think we've seen all that there is downstairs, so let's go check out some bedrooms upstairs. So this is the primary bedroom here in our home. It has undergone quite the facelift. The ceiling in here was so lofted prior to this that it actually didn't have any sort of insulation. So we were really hot. We were putting a cooling pad on the mattress. It was sweaty mess, awful. So, and that's after we changed out the windows, and it was still so hot in here, solely because we didn't have insulation above us. So we actually lowered the ceiling and blew in insulation and actually put in some beautiful beams, because if we're doing something with the ceiling, we may as well make it look beautiful and purposeful. So I added in some dark wood beams and a nice dark walnut stain. And these were crafted by my contractor, who is a very talented woodworker. I stained them myself. Whenever we do projects around the house, I like to get my hands in it. And so I painted the walls, I stained the beams, all that fun stuff, just because, number one, it saves money. And number two, it's almost therapeutic to use your hands and get a little physical, even though it is easier to have other people do it for you. But it saves us some money too, which is always a win-win. So something that we did in this space to really amp up the cozy feature and to make it feel more warm and inviting was we put in this fireplace. Sounds like a huge undertaking, but it was actually very easy. This is an electric fireplace. I actually bought it on Amazon. Super easy, affordable. And then we built out, I had, you know, my contractors that I work with all the time build out the facade, and these are actually ledger stones that you can buy from Floor & Decor that we separated out and overgrouted to create this very cottage-like feeling. This has transformed this space so much to where I never wanted to be in my room before, and now I just love it. It's just so inviting and relaxing and cozy, and so fun it's fun for me to see and feel that transition just by adding in such a nice feature that really did not, cost an entirely exorbitant amount of money. So it's nice for me to feel that when I invest so much of myself, my energy, and my creative juices into spaces, and to be able to receive that in our own home with something that feels very daunting and large, but it actually is pretty attainable to do. So I love this fireplace. It was a really fun addition to the bedroom. Something that I actually did differently in here was I added more warm tones in my colors, the cool tones. So typically I stick in more of the blues, I do a lot of greens, but I wanted to bring in this rust bedspread, which Kitty loves, because I felt like I needed to really engage with the beams and the flooring and kind of unite it with something that's really earthy and inviting. And so I got this bedspread from Quince, which I love. It's really beautiful, and it's linen, cozy, earthy, organic. So the texture is there. It's nice, again, layering the textures and the patterns. So you can see here, the tassel on the pillow lends to the floral here, and then the embroidery here. It's just all these little details work together to create a cozy and inviting atmosphere. And then here, we're moving into velvet chairs and with the more quilted textural pillows. So again, earthy. That was really what I was going for in here. I just wanted it to feel cozy, inviting, and like we could just be in here, which we never felt before. So this transformation happened more recently, and I can't say how much I love it enough. So, and obviously Kitty likes it too. He's in here all the time now. So next I'd like to show you our primary bathroom. It's small, but it definitely gets the job done. We wanted to maximize the space by having a large enough vanity for his and her sinks and that sort of area with storage. And then we also felt like it was very important for us to have a tub and a shower. So in here, we actually had an angled ceiling and lots of dead space. So the room actually went that way a little bit, but we closed it off and squared it off here so that we could maximize the shower space. And so it actually gave us like 3 extra feet on our shower. And as you travel in here, you can take a look, but I wanted to make sure it was very organic feeling with some modern hints. So we have the pebble stone on the floor to give you a spa-like feeling, but then also on the walls you have your vertical stacked tile that actually looked very aged, and they look like they've been around for a while, but they still lend to the modern lines while still feeling homey, organic, cozy, and inviting. Something else that we did in here was incorporate lots of warmth through the wooden pieces. So I feel like adding in a little, tabletop for your tub, the tray is so important to just, dress it up a little bit. It's like a little accessory. You don't leave the house without putting on a necklace. Put a tray on your tub. To me, the word home goes beyond a house, beyond a stack of bricks. It's what you do with it and how you live in that home. Home is where your family is. Home is where you spend your time together and where you make memories. And so I feel like building a home that is special to you is so important, because that is what you hold with you forever. So overall, I feel like the memories you make in your home are the most special. And when you have a space to do that, that is inviting and that you want to be in together, that is what home is to me. where you can make your memories. All right, Homeworthy, well, thank you for coming and spending your morning with me. But I think it's probably time to go. But you can come back here to my place in Austin anytime. Bye.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Shannon. Welcome to my house in Austin, Texas. I can't wait to show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Shannon Eddings, and I'm an interior designer based in Austin, Texas. Welcome to my home. So we bought this home, gosh, almost 16 years ago. I was pregnant with my first child, who's about to turn 15. And it's a 1954 ranch style home in kind of central East Austin. I loved that it had some original architecture. You don't get a ton of that in ranch style homes. And we were coming from Hyde Park here in Austin, which has a lot more character. But there were little details in this house that I loved, like the exposed brick in the living room. And it has a huge lot. We have a huge backyard and a lot of potential for expansion. So when we bought it, it was 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, which it actually still is, but we have since converted the garage space to be part of the house, and hopefully we'll do another addition in the next year or two to add on another bedroom and bathroom. But it's a cute original brick home, and I loved the mid-century elements. I've kind of moved away from mid-century furniture and layered in a little bit more classic stuff, so I kind of like the mix and tension. But yeah, we've been here for quite a while, and it's seen a lot of changes in that time. Welcome to what I call the formal living room. This was actually formerly our garage. I don't know if you want to show the detail in the ground, but there's a clear separation between what was the existing house and then is now the converted garage. Instead of kind of trying to mesh the floors, I put a brass detailing in to just kind of embrace the quirk. So there's a clear separation, but this was once our garage and now it's my favorite room in the house. So in here is where, I guess when I have friends over or company, we like to hang out the most. This is my favorite piece in the house probably because it was my grandmother's and I had it recovered in this beautiful-ish yellow velvet. And I love the camelback. I love that it's not typically the type of furniture you'd put in a mid-century home. But I like that play. So this kind of anchors the room. We've got this cool pair of vintage leather chairs that I love. They're really comfortable. Almost every single thing in this room is antique or vintage. I don't think anything's actually new, except for maybe pillows. So yeah, this little coffee table, I got at Round Top. We go to Round Top, the antique show. It's just outside of Austin, and we go there a couple times a year to source for clients. And I often end up with something for myself. Also in here, something I really wanted to do was a pair of sconces, and this is I have a lot of favorite paintings in the house, but this is one of my favorite. I like anything kind of Western, I think just because I'm Texan and I spent most of my life driving west to Santa Fe and then up to Colorado, a lot of road trips, and I got that in Santa Fe a few years ago, and it's probably my favorite oil painting. For some reason, when I did this room, actually, I wanted to channel the colors of Santa Fe because the sunsets there are so spectacular, especially in like June and July. So that was kind of where I got the idea for the cloud wallpaper, was like big sky vibes, and the red that comes up in the sky, the red and pink, and then the yellow of the desert. We drive through Georgia O'Keeffe country a lot, which is Abiquiu. And it is just so beautiful, so many colors. So I probably need some more blue, but I'll get there someday. This antique bar cabinet, I got at Round Top, and it's a really cool piece. It's functional. It actually locks, which is important when you have a teenager in the house, I think. I'm not there yet, but I will be soon. And I like to just style it with a few pretty kind of Italian bottles, some cool glassware that was my grandparents', a little glass decanter. This is a cool old French mirror that I also bought at Round Top. A neat box I got in Mexico last year. I mean, I think what I value a lot in a home, especially my own, is pieces that have meaning. So almost everything in here has meaning. Was a gift or a family heirloom or something like that. So I try to, when I have company, I clear this off a little bit more and make it a drink station. So there's some stains and stuff, but you know what? That's life. It's worth living. We'll call it patina. So over here is another round top find. Almost all of this is round top. I got these chairs from one of my favorite sellers there, who's English, and then this little bistro table as well. And I've always wanted a proper game table, and recently I rearranged some stuff to make this happen. My new passion is chess, though I'm not good at it, but I'm gonna get good at it. So I like having this beautiful antique chessboard out. I think it's made of alabaster and marble, and we've used it in a lot of photo shoots, but it's actually mine and I love it. And then the bookcase, which is my favorite. We had this custom built when we redid the house. I do love to read, and I enjoy hanging on to books because I think kind of is a fun way to look at the history of your life. And so I have a lot of stuff in here. Some of it was my grandparents' books, but most of it is stuff I've read or my children have read. So I had it designed to kind of run into the beam that goes into the kitchen, and has my record player, which I do enjoy using. A lot of little collectibles and odds and ends, which I've got everywhere. This little tiny baby wiener dog that was a gift from my mom for Christmas, which is an ode to Bonnie, my new puppy. These are old opera glasses that I love that were in my grandparents' house. I always used to think they were so pretty and cool, and I really like them. I know it's just stuff, but sometimes stuff has a lot of meaning. But yeah, I love playing records with friends. One of the best gifts my dad ever gave me was, I think it was my 35th birthday. He brought down a bunch of his old records. He's the one that taught me to love music and had a great record collection. So I have a lot of his stuff in here, and it reminds me of him. So this is just my weird row of art that I randomly hung a couple months ago on a whim. And it's a bunch of pieces that actually have a lot of meaning to me, but I think I just wanted to embrace the height of the ceiling and the angle of the house. So the top and bottom pieces are a friend who's a local artist that I bought from her a few years ago. This was done by my sister-in-law, who's super talented, and she painted it for me one Christmas, probably 8 years ago, and I love the oranges. A swallow is one of my favorite birds, so I have this cool little antique swallow print. These are some wildflowers that I think I also bought at an antique store in Santa Fe. And then I do love a nude. When I studied at UT, the first class I walked into in the art department was live drawing, and I didn't really fully understand what that meant. But it was a model who immediately derobes, and I started just drawing people, and it's probably still one of my favorite pieces of art to source for clients and for myself. So this is a really cool etching that I found who knows where, but I love it. I like that it's subtle, and you'll see in my room I have quite a few more nude drawings. It's not intentional, but I just do think they're really beautiful. So when we bought the house, someone had done a little bit of a flip, I would say. So the kitchen was it still had its original cabinetry, which I loved, including like the little scallop detail above the sink. But we've since knocked out the kitchen and opened it up and redone it. But yeah, it had a lot of accent walls, like just one wall with paint. So the first thing we did was repaint the whole space, and the bathroom still has its original floor tile in it, which I really love. And I'm probably not gonna change, even though it's beat up and kind of damaged looking. I really like character in houses, and I feel like it's so great when you can keep original elements. So to the extent that I'm able, I've tried to do that. But it was a little bit of a Home Depot style flip, so I've worked really hard to bring in character. That's the main thing. So off of the formal living is a little transition out to the screen porch, and it's right off the kitchen. And this is an area where I think kind of comes into play in my own work with clients, which is like there's just a blank wall. I think a lot of people often don't think to put furniture in places like this, but it's something I love to do, try to put like an antique piece, especially when it's new, just white drywall. So this was another one of my grandparents' pieces, and I always loved looking at it when I went to their home. My grandmother would keep it open just like this, so I'm totally copying her. Actually, my mom corrected me. She would leave one door closed and one open, but I'm going to keep them both open. So I recently moved it out of my room and into here to be what I'm calling a curiosity cabinet. And it's housing a lot of my hobbies, I guess you could say. I really like to be outside and spend time in nature. And I guess through the years, I just collect feathers and rock and things like that. This past year, I got on a seashell kick. My mom told me I might be overdoing it and that this isn't a beach house, but I disagree. Don't think when you curate it well like this, it looks nice. So yeah, I just have a lot of personal items in here, some pictures of my kids that I love, some old National Geographics, which I used to love to look through when I was a kid. Another thing that my mom thought I should get rid of, and I said no. I think it's nostalgic for a lot of us, at least. I have some photos down here that people like to flip through. It's just a fun spot to linger in and see all my various collections, I guess. This is cool. This is my grandparents as well. My grandmother was a clock collector, and they traveled the world a lot, and she had, I think, like 18 clocks in her home. And so when she passed away, she wanted each grandchild to get a clock. So that was pretty cool. I picked this one. It's not currently working, but it still looks pretty. Oh, another fun thing to note is this little cabinet houses my broom, because when we remodeled, when left to my own devices, I forgot to put a broom closet in the laundry room. So once the remodel was done, I realized I had nowhere to put a broom or a vacuum in the whole house. So I searched high and low for probably 3 years for a cabinet that would fit right here, and finally found one at Round Top about 2 years ago. So I love this piece, and it's very functional and it fits perfect. Don't forget to put in a broom closet. This bust is a cool, just vintage find that I found once. I think I actually bought it for a client, and they ended up saying it was too creepy. And he wasn't too creepy for me though. So I like him. Those are some old hats from grandfathers that I like to put on display. So he wears a hat and just puts out a vibe. And this little lamp that's a little wonky, which I wouldn't sell to a client, but in my own house, I don't mind. This is a cool Round Top find as well, just an old terracotta lamp, which also reminds me of New Mexico, which I love. And this was the original vintage shade, and it happened to go. So I like to keep it, even though it's kind of broken. So to describe my style, that's something that, not because I'm unique and special, but I have a hard time doing. But I would say it's like this balance of old and new, lots of different patterns and colors mixed together, maybe or specifically in an unexpected way. I was trained in art, so I think I like a lot of the colors in paintings, Matisse, Milton Avery, and that type of style I think has informed the way I decorate. So I like to kind of pair things that are unexpected. I like to go bold with color when possible and stay away from a lot of neutrals. Trying to just make houses a happy place, that are livable and approachable and not like a museum, though I do love museums. So I do like a little curation, but I would say my style is just a mix of different eras, and I think the way I decorate my own home versus the way I decorate for clients is very different. Not that different, but in my own house, it's very adaptable and kind of like, what do I have? How can I make the most of what I have? It's more budget conscious probably, but I try to bring that in some way into my clients' lives. I try to like see if they have heirloom furniture or any cool pieces of art, things that we can reuse, recover, bring new life to. I try to like pull out from them what they love, where they like to travel, what kind of art they like, and that informs the whole design process. So this is the screened-in porch that we added on when we did the renovation, and it was kind of just a last-minute add-on, but it's pretty much one of my favorite spots. I like to watch football out here with my son, And Bonnie likes to lay in the sunspot right here on the green couch. These were a happy accident. I like to talk about that in my own house because I have a lot of things that I wouldn't have really purchased myself, but they came to me. So these were shipped for a client, but they were missing a piece. And for some reason, the vendor decided not to take them back and let us keep them. So I kept them and got rid of the old sectional, and I love the green. They're so comfortable. I like a Sunday nap here or a good reading session. This is a quirky little table I got at Round Top, as well as the stone mushroom. I think mushrooms might be my next hobby in the wild, looking at them. And this beautiful little stone swan planter is my favorite new thing. It was a gift from one of my employees at Christmas, and it's probably one of my favorite gifts I've ever received. I think it's so cool and quirky, and it's got a monstera plant, and I'm really working right now in keeping plants alive. That's my goal. So that's a little citrus tree out there that's thriving. I'm starting to get little limes on it. This is a really neat spot, great light, and it's kind of my happy spot. I like to be outdoors whenever possible, so this is like a dream. So this is a really cool, I think it was French rattan chair that I got at Round Top that I think I bought thinking I'd sell it to a client, but then decided to keep. It's so cool. It actually, you can sit in it and pull this like ottoman out. And it doesn't really do well in the sunlight, but it does well in here. So it's a neat piece, super comfortable and functional. And I love the woven material. I feel like it's a nice touch out here with all the wood and brick and everything. I think this is called a snowshoe bench or something. I can't really remember the history, but I got that at a local store here in Austin. And I've got these Mexican blankets everywhere. They're also from Santa Fe. They're comfy to curl up with when you're out here watching a movie and it's cold. Something I'm pretty obsessed with is lamp lighting, and I will say I was sitting out here a lot at night wishing I had a lamp, so I found this little Pantone knockoff. You just touch it, has 3 different levels, and I love it. And so I have lamp light out here at night without having to have a plug. I love decorating my own home because it's like, sorry for the art metaphor again, but it's like a canvas. So it's where I can play around and figure out what works, and it's always changing. Not because I'm always buying new things necessarily, but just adapting to the age of my kids and the way we live. And I love doing my own home. I think it's a great way to kind of experiment with different furniture layouts, and I go crazy with art in my own house. I like to hang it in unique ways, and yeah, I really enjoy it. I will say when I did a remodel, I had a very hard time picking finishes for the kitchen because it's kind of an open floor plan, which is actually not my favorite these days. I prefer a little more separation in rooms. So I had a hard time with that, and I have regrets 5 years later, for sure. But for the most part, I really enjoy decorating my own space. Let's head back inside and look at the kitchen. Okay, so here's the kitchen. It's open to the whole house. And I have some regrets about that, but it is nice to be able to talk to everybody when I'm in here cooking or whatever. When we redid the kitchen, we just wanted it to be super functional. So we have a whole wall of built-in cabinets, which I wish I'd gone bolder on the paint color. And so now I tell clients all the time not to be afraid, but I was afraid, and I'm not afraid to admit that. And these are soapstone quartz countertops. Another minor regret. I tell clients all the time to do the real stone, and I wish I'd done it myself. But these are great. They're super durable. You can put anything on it, hot or cold, and I like the way they look. So yeah, it's a really functional space. Got the trash hidden here. Did a little open shelving just to hang more, yet again, more of my collectibles. I knew the day would come where I got into blue and white. I just didn't know when, and it was when I turned 40. My mom has a bunch of blue and white china, and I've always just thought, nope, it's too old for me, and then suddenly I found the beauty in it. So I've got some really pretty blue and white on display that I love. More feathers, quirky little cabinet that I got, I think at Round Top yet again, that houses tea and salt and butter and everyday stuff. It's a small kitchen, so I've had to find ways to be creative with storing things. We have a little appliance garage over here, which has been really nice for coffee, and my new yellow toaster, which you can't see, but it's cool. This is the pantry, and these drawers are really great. They're really heavy duty, and it's something we always recommend our clients do, is big drawers to store pots and pans or plates. It's just easy and more accessible, in my opinion, than like lower cabinet. I'm not afraid to hang pictures on the fridge and a bunch of quotes that I love. I just feel like a house is worth living in and should be personal. Up here, I think I've got a lot of glassware and china plates and random stuff. A lot of this was my grandmother's, and I do like to bring it out for dinner parties. So yeah, it's a pretty colorful world up there. Another little element where I had to get creative, I realized there wasn't a great spot, again, because I drew the kitchen myself and I'm not an architect. I failed to really think through where to put glassware. So I found this little cabinet, and I love to store wine glasses, teacups, things like that in it, and just hung it on the end of the fridge cabinet. And I like now in almost every house I do, we like to bring in some antique and old into the kitchen, because the kitchen's always kind of, it can feel livable and pretty, but it's kind of industrial just by nature. So I like to bring in some antique elements, and I feel like we often source little cabinets like these for kitchens these days. This is usually covered in mail, but today it's not, and not just mail, lunches, water bottles, all the things. But it's a great little kitchen. It serves a lot of purpose. This was the first thing I bought when we decided to redo the kitchen. I found this at Round Top, and I think it's from Czechoslovakia or something, but it's it's borderline too small, but again, in my own house, I can get away with what I want. I love that it puts out a lot of light, and I love the crystal detail, and it's really cool at night how it lights up the space. So this is one of my favorite features for sure. And you know, I tried to hide the vent hood in a way that would make the kitchen not feel choppy since it's so small. So covering it in the same tile as the backsplash kind of helps to keep it feeling cohesive and not too, I guess, crowded, visually speaking. And finished it in a brass edging to kind of tie in with that floor brass that I mentioned. So I like how this wall feels clean and a little contemporary, but is super functional. I decided to keep the kitchen a little lighter and brighter because it's open to so many spaces. There's a lot going on in eyesight here, so I felt like I couldn't really overdo this while also having pink doors, wallpaper, yellow couch. I mean, I do like a lot of things, and I like for things to be colorful and pretty, but it also can be overwhelming and overstimulating. So I tried to keep this kind of a clean, easy on the eyes space, if you will. The paint on the cabinets is called Silver Sage. There's actually a hint of green to it. And as I mentioned, I do kind of wish I'd gone a little more saturated in the color, but I may repaint them one day. But for now, it's great. It's clean and easy. So off the kitchen, we have our little dining space, which again, hasn't changed since we redid the house. The door of the house used to be right here where this armoire is. And you would walk in, and here was the table, and here was the kitchen, and that was the garage. So it's kind of the way it's always been in a sense. I chose not to put an overhead light over it just because there's other overhead lighting going on, and I just kind of want it to fly under the radar, especially since it's so close to the front door. But yeah, it's a really beautiful little rosewood table that I got at Round Top. All the chairs are also from Round Top. And I feel like I should be an official Round Top spokesperson because I talk about it so much, but this is where I find a lot of our stuff. This is where we have family meals. My kids sometimes eat at the bar, but we mostly sit here. These are neat. These are little, technically shouldn't be dining chairs. These are little vintage kind of barrel back, cane back chairs that I found at Round Top. And covered in this Wayne Pate fabric, who is a really talented artist and textile designer. And so I love the kind of pop of color it brings. Next to the dining room is the front door. And so I really like to try to create some sort of landing spot, especially in a small home, because I do have kids and there's a lot of stuff. So I have this old vintage bench that was in my brother's room growing up, and this is kind of where backpacks end up landing. My keys and stuff go on it, and then I created another little landing spot right there with this antique kind of demi-lune table with the cool marble top. That was just like a $300 antique find that I painted, and I love that little spot. I've got more art that I love over here. That is actually a painting of my son's head when he was a baby. He had curls, and it was one of my favorite things. And someone randomly found a photograph and painted it for us. Actually, it was for our grandparents, and they gave it to us. So that's a really cool piece that means a lot to me and is really sentimental. That's a Santa Fe painting, which I keep talking about. So apparently I do really love Santa Fe. We had a replica remade of our original front door when we redid the house, because we wanted something sturdier and safer, but this was what the 1952 or 54 or whatever year my house was built door looked like. And I painted it a color called Odessa Pink, which again kind of reminds me of West Texas and New Mexico. So yeah, I think it's important, especially in a small home, to try to carve out really functional spots and make every square foot matter. So that's kind of what I tried to do here. Another way to define a space is with a rug, and I tell clients all the time that's why we get the right size rugs. So this runner serves to kind of say this is the entry and this is the dining, and I think it works. It kind of sets it apart even though they're right next to each other, and helps define the two spaces, and it's just practicing what I preach, I guess. It's a cool little vintage rug. I think it's Moroccan. I don't care if it gets dirty or beat up, and it brings a fun pop of color. You know, I want people to just feel like they could sigh and rest in my home, my kids especially, but I like for it to feel like a place people want to linger and hang out. I like to have small, intimate seating areas, a record player. I like for it just to be very much about people and community and conversation. I don't want people to feel like they can't touch anything. So that's probably my priority, is just comfort and also, I guess, excitement. I have a lot of collections and a lot of art to look at, and it's fun for me to talk about all the different stuff and where I've got it over the years. And so I think maybe keeping it interesting for people is fun for me. So from this little fake entryway I created, we head into the family room. This is a landing spot for the dog leash, the umbrella, jackets, whatever we need to hang. That's anchored into the wall pretty good because it gets a lot of stuff on it. This is a really, really cool little chair that I get so many compliments on, that used to be with that secretary that I called my curiosity cabinet. But now it's just floating here. It's really cute, antique. Got this little cushion made that matches the pillows in the family room. That's a little detail that probably I appreciate more than anyone else. This is a beautiful antique piece, antique armoire that I got at Round Top. I bought it many years ago to house toys in my girls' room. They were really into all the little things, calico critters, American Girl dolls. So it housed all that, but they've kind of grown out of that. So I brought it out here because it's so beautiful. It locks, and now it stores all of our kind of games and puzzles and things like that. I do love that it has a mirror. It kind of reflects light and helps keep the space really nice and open. But it's super, super functional too, which is great. This room, I painted all one color. It's Hay by Farrow and Ball, which is kind of my favorite yellow. It's not quite as light as I anticipated it being, but I'm going with it, and I'm not going to repaint. But it's a happy shade of yellow and kind of just brings a nice glow to the room. We do a lot of living in here. This is where my kids mostly hang out. This is where we watch movies on Friday nights and things like that. This is where Bonnie likes to come sleep, and I went for comfort on the sofa over really, I like it. It's pretty, but it's very deep and very, very comfortable. This is an old antique burlwood side table that I found a few years ago. I love the mix of woods. I think it can kind of be hard sometimes to pull off putting a lot of different woods in a space, so I've tried to balance all the different finishes and shades and put a lot of thought into it, actually. That's an antique side table over there with a really cool wood lamp that I found at an antique store in Pagosa Springs, Colorado, which is where my family goes. So that's sentimental to me, and that thing was about $30. With a new shade, it looks like a lot more. The pillows are just a fun mix of colors. One of my favorite textile designers is out of Dallas. It's called Kufri. And so most of the pillows are Kufri. The chairs are fun. I recovered these. I feel like it's not often that I spend the money on a fabric I love and recover something, but it's worth it. And I had just always loved this fabric. it makes me happy. And it's by Lake August, which is one of our favorite textile companies as well. And they're just, I think they were just Anthropologie chairs that I had in a velvet for a while and redid to kind of bring some pattern and color into the room. I stress with my clients often the importance of drapery, and when we have the budget, we really like to do custom drapes. It is quite an investment for sure, and I have not done it throughout my house, and someday I probably will, but I did get those made last year, and I love the pinch pleat at the top, and the fabric's actually just block print straight from India that I bought from an Etsy shop. So, you know, a lot of our favorite fabrics in our office are $150 a yard and more, and this was like $30. So it's a great cheat if you want to do something yourself and have like a really nice looking set of drapes made, but got to save some money somewhere. So this room, as we've talked about, is open to all the other spaces, and I think the yellow was something I tried to bring into here to kind of balance out the formal living. It has the yellow camelback sofa and the red rug, and so I kind of picked those tones back up in here with the yellow paint and the red on the fabric. Trying to kind of add some balance across the house. Also, both rooms feature a lot of wood, which I just spoke about. But I think they balance each other really well and kind of speak to each other in a way. I do love to bring in white just to kind of keep things fresh and bright. So this is an old coffee table that's gotten kind of beat up, but it's a really neat piece that I've had for a couple years. It's kind of indestructible, which is important with kids. I say that even though it has a chunk taken out of it, but it's still functional. Let's see, this is a really beautiful antique chest that I sourced a few years ago. It houses kind of my candlesticks and linens and things like that. I have a candlestick obsession. I really like taper candles, and I like to have candles going most nights. I just love the flickering light and the way it sets the mood. So the entire top drawer, I think, is candles. In this little corner, I have a really cool photograph from a Texas rodeo that reminds me of kind of some family's ranch land that we used to go to, and the rodeo there. And I love the neon colors. It was one piece that when I saw it, I was like, I'm buying this. It doesn't matter how much. That's not true. It wasn't that bad, but I really wanted to have it. I keep a bowl of photographs, which is something I also like to tell clients to do. Just, it's fun sometimes. The kids will go through them, company will go through them, and it's just a fun conversation starter. I have quite a few more art books. I'm getting out of control, so they're just in stacks everywhere. This little brick wall and this nook were original to the house, and I love the exposed brick. I think this room, forgive the TV, but we do have to have a TV. Well, we don't have to, but we choose to. This room used to be open to the bedroom on the other side, apparently, and it was like a living dining. So someone at some point closed this up, and I definitely am never going to get rid of the brick. I love the pink tones in it. It's the same as the exterior, and it's that little bit of character that I just love in an old house. I do like to add a floor lamp in rooms to just add some height. And this one kind of makes a big statement. It's a cool piece. We actually have a pair of them at our office as well. We liked it that much. And, you know, people probably would like to hear that it's from Crate and Barrel, so you too could have it. and I think it's even still there. But I love the dramatic impact it makes in the space. Something I also love to have clients do, and recently did myself, is just bring a pair of ottomans into the family room. It's just more seating. We recently watched a UT football game here with like 16 people, and it was great because between bringing dining chairs in and these and this, everybody had a place to sit. So it's a great, easy option for additional seating. And it kind of balances out the room. It helps the sofa not feel so heavy. But yeah, it's a very comfortable space. We love hanging out in here and love the natural light. Love when the puppy takes a nap like she's doing now. Sometimes I can talk my almost 13-year-old daughter into playing the piano still. And that's a real treat when that happens. So I do keep it around just to try to encourage playing. But it's an old piece that a neighbor just gave us, and she was interested in taking lessons, so she did, and she's already quit, but she still is retaining some knowledge, so I leave it here to encourage playing. And then on this wall are probably like my set of my favorite paintings in the house, which I think I've already said about 6 times. But these are all really colorful and kind of have a story behind them. I actually have like a problem, I think, with buying art, so I opened an online shop, and it's on our website. And it's a bunch of vintage art that I've sourced from both Round Top and online auctions. I got really into a Swedish auction house recently. And so this and that are from the Swedish auction house. I love the way, I don't know what it is about Sweden, but I love the colors and the way they use color over there. There's kind of this like signature look that I've noticed. And yeah, so those are 2 of my favorites. This little pair of women, I also love. Again, it kind of reminds me of New Mexico. I tried to get my daughters to hang them in their room, and they said no. So they're out here. And then this is a cool little vintage still life. I actually paint myself. I have a little studio in the backyard, and I've been really working on still lifes. And this one inspires me a lot. And it looks to me like a Cezanne, but it's not. It's by somebody else. But I love it, and I love all the colors here. And it's just a happy moment. I have always loved rearranging rooms. And my mom was an interior designer growing up, and so I watched her do it a lot. I never actually thought that would be my career. I went to school here in Austin at UT and studied fine arts and painted and mostly did printmaking. And I kind of thought I would have this dream life of designing concert posters, which is not really something many people get to do. And it just evolved over time. I mostly in my early career was doing some graphic design and designing custom wedding invitations. And pre-children, someone came over to my house for dinner, my little duplex in Hyde Park, and asked if they could pay me to do their house. And I jumped at the opportunity. It was good pay and really invigorating, and I would say that was kind of the beginning. I shortly thereafter had a baby, and have been doing it ever since. I mean, I think it really became more of a firm and more of a career about 10 years ago, maybe 11, right before I had my 3rd child is when things picked up a lot, and it's very different than it used to be. But yeah, I enjoy it so much and never really saw myself doing it, but I had a lot of influence growing up and am self-taught. So that's a different approach, and I think classically trained and self-taught designers bring different things to the table, but I don't really wish I'd gone to school for it. I'm really grateful for the self-learned experience and what it brings. Let me show you my bedroom next. Come with me down the hall. This is my room. It's small, but it has a lot of good natural light, which is probably my favorite part of it. You know, I tell clients we don't like to put furniture in front of windows, but sometimes you have limitations. So the bed's in front of the window, and that's okay. I made the most of it. This is a cool little headboard from a company called Coley Home, which I love, and it's very affordable to get cool upholstered beds done. My nightstands are both antique, and I really love the pine on that piece. I think in your own room you can kind of have things that make you happy. So what makes me happy is a little color. So I've got some pink on the ceiling. I'm not sure if you can tell. Yellow curtains, which is my favorite color is yellow. And then I think I mentioned earlier my obsession with new drawings and stuff. So I've got a couple of them in here. This is a really beautiful oil painting that I also bought from that Swedish auction. This is kind of my happy corner where I can sit and have some quiet time and read with the when the kids are all listening to watching TV or have friends over. So it's a nice corner for me. I like to call it my peace corner, which is a Montessori school term, but I channel it here. And then my bed, I've got some fun bedding that I recently got from a company called Piglet at Home, which I love the name of. I love the red stripe. On the bed is a cool old, technically I think it's a tablecloth that was my grandmother's that my mom recently gave me, but I like to just lay it kind of as a coverlet for a little interesting detail and texture. I take it off at night, but it's a really pretty little soft effect. The lamps are both vintage marble, and I think that's alabaster. I always encourage bedside tables with drawers, super functional. I love little trays to like hold your jewelry and phone and stuff at night. So I try to practice what I preach, even in my own room, but it's a bright and happy spot. It's small but comfortable, and as with the rest of the house, I've tried to just maximize storage and function. So I have a really neat little vintage Turkish rug in here that I found on Etsy. That's kind of my secret favorite place to find good deals on rugs. Again, for clients, we'll do higher end stuff, but for myself, I often find beat up, cool deals, and sometimes I'll let that dictate the rest of the room. I already had the red bedding, the pink ceiling, the yellow curtains, and I just decided to throw in some aqua. But I love this rug. It kind of hides stains, and it's soft underfoot and goes really well with this slip-covered chair. This is really, though, I said the yellow couch was my favorite spot, but this is my really private little happy place. When our kids were little, I could open the window and hear them outside, and I still can. They're just not as little anymore. But I do enjoy sitting here and opening this window. What I love most about my home is the way it feels, that it feels personal. I have a lot of things that I've collected over time or gotten from my grandparents, and it feels like a happy, safe place to be. And then, of course, the people in it, including the puppy. A lot of happiness in this house, including the colors and the people in it. That's what I like. One time someone did give me a nice compliment about my home, and it was when I had tiny kids and had just started the firm and hired my first employee, and it was a babysitter. And I came home from dinner or wherever, and she said, "Do you do interior design or something? Because this house is just a little too good." And I liked that. It made me feel like, okay, I want it to be pretty and approachable, but I do want it to be well done, and I do enjoy when people notice that I've worked at it a little bit. So probably just, I enjoy hearing that it's a pretty place, and I really like for people to linger and feel like they could stay in it for a while. And so I think all the art and books and the chess table maybe help people want to do that. Let's go take a look at my son's room next. So this is a teenage boy's room, which can be a really tricky thing to decorate. Every week or so, something new comes down off the walls that I have had up. So pretty soon it's going to have no real decor, I think. But for the time being, it's retained some cute character. He has been in here since he was a baby, and this used to be a little crib nook. What's cool and what you can't see is behind the bed is that exposed brick again. So when it was a crib, it was really neat because you could see that. But he measured and figured out that a full-size bed fit perfectly in the nook. So it's kind of his little dream corner. You know, I love color, and so we've managed to keep it pretty colorful. I think this paint color is Amsterdam Blue by Benjamin Moore, and something I really love to do is paint trim and interior doors the same as the walls, especially in a small space, to kind of help it feel cohesive and not choppy. So it's kind of a little oasis in here. You know, I've got lots of antique stuff here and there that he has scattered with his own personal stuff, but we managed to find a little nightstand that fits. This is a cool pottery lamp. I love finding vintage pottery lamps. They can be kind of hard to find, but something to look for at antique stores. And you know, we've got a mix of some of my cool art with some of his new concert poster passion. So we're just trying to roll with it. This rug is a new find that he got for Christmas. It's a soft little Moroccan rug, multicolored. So he's got a pretty great room, all things considered. He's got a little love seat. Got him a record player for Christmas, trying to start that passion early for him and help him build a collection. And this is a really cool old wall map I found years ago, and I love putting a map in as many children's rooms as possible. I feel like it kind of teaches them a sense of wonder, or that's the goal at least, for them to kind of dream about traveling. I think it's one of the most important things you can do in life is see how the rest of the world lives. So I love that he's allowed me to keep it up. So as my son has gotten older, I think I mentioned that a lot of the things I had designed and decorated in here started to come down. And I do think it's important that kids get to kind of start to decorate their own spaces and get a feel for what they like. So there's a balance in here of things that I have put up mixed with things that he really wants up. And I think it's good. You know, he really loves to decorate and he kind of has an eye for what looks good. He arranged the whole room. I know I mentioned that the bed, he measured himself. So it's fun that he has his own autonomy and some control over the space. It can be like a real tension though, because I'd probably minimize the concert posters a little bit, but trying to encourage him to be himself is important. So yeah, there's a little balance in here. He does love Wes Anderson, which I think is really fun and cool. So while I would have gone for like multiple Wes Anderson posters in the room, he went for one, his favorite, which is Isle of Dogs. So I love that he has that. And in all honesty, I think boys' rooms are some of my favorite to design. When they're 12 to 15, it can be tricky to have an opinion, but with clients, I love designing a man's space or a boy's room. It's just, I think the masculine colors and the things you can bring out are really nice. So this has been fun for me. The word home means to me, I think it's more of a feeling. It's that desire to go somewhere where you feel like you can be completely relaxed and happy and comfortable, usually with people you love. So to me, it's a feeling. And this feels like home to me for sure.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Mary. Welcome to my home in Austin, Texas.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, my name is Mary Mandel, and I'm a real estate developer, and I'm the co-founder of a project called Sanctuary, which is an eco-luxury, fully off-grid community here in Austin, Texas. We're on an amazing 10-acre greenbelt. It is full of amazing features, caves and waterfalls and stalactites and fossils and even dinosaur tracks. And we have recently finished construction on an approximately 3,500 square foot home with a pool house, 4 bedrooms and 4 bathrooms. I had been looking for a home in Austin for quite a while, and I couldn't find anything that I was really excited about. So I decided that I wanted to build from the ground up and design a home. So I found the land while living in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I called the realtor immediately because it was fairly close to downtown and it said that it was over 10 acres. And so I thought there must have been an issue with the decimal point and that it should have been 1.014 acres instead of over 10 acres. And so I called the realtor. He, checked with the sellers. He called me back and he said, no, this is the real deal. And so immediately we bought tickets to Austin. We literally came out within 24 hours. It happened to be a massive rainstorm while we were out, and we only had a few hours before we had to get back on the flight. So we were trudging through the mud and through the rain. This land was undeveloped, so it was a very, very steep forest, basically. And so we were walking around trying to just see whatever we can see, and we just started noticing all of these incredible caves and a jetty of water in this creek on the property and waterfalls. And so we just immediately, before we got on the plane, had our agent write up the offer. And by the time we landed in Argentina, we had an accepted offer. Welcome to my living room. My favorite part of the living room is actually what you see through all of the glass. So this entire wing is all glass, and the reason for that is there's so much incredible stuff to see. So over here, there's a waterfall and these massive boulders, and then I love the way these big boulders look like they're kind of splaying down the side of the hill. And then on this side, there's this really incredible fern wall that's covered with maidenhair fern all year round and water all year round, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. I really love organic shapes, and so I tried to do that with as much of the furniture pieces as possible. The roof also, since it's shaped as falling oak leaves, is also organic shaped as well. But these chairs in particular, this is from an amazing artist out of Australia named Brodie Neal, and they're called the cowrie chairs because they are shaped like the cowrie shells in the ocean, and it's just all one piece of formed bent plywood. And I love those, very sculptural and very organic. Another piece that I really love is this lighting fixture. This is from an Israeli company called Aqua Creations, and this is a sheath made of wool, and it's really textural. It feels really amazing, and I love things that have texture as well. So one of my other favorite pieces in the living room is this coffee table. I co-designed this with a group out of Italy, and it's a blackened or charred wood. It's using this ancient Japanese technique called shisugiban. And then it also has a living metal, which patinas. And I love mixing metals, and I love living metals that actually change and patina over time. This sofa is a vintage sofa, also from Italy. It's called the DS6000. And on it is a sheepskin hide that I searched for high and low in northern England. I'm a big fan of all natural and organic materials, including woods and metals and hides. So I have a lot of those throughout the house. So the elevation of this living room that we're sitting in right now is at sort of the midpoint of the trees. And so normally you're either at the base on the ground or you're very high above and you're looking out above over the trees. But what's so unique and so special about this is that we're in the middle of the trees. And so we get this incredible firsthand look of nature happening in the trees. And so we'll see owls right at eye level, birds' nests. We see a regular blue heron that we see all the time in the creek that's bathing himself and fishing, because there's also fish in the creek. There are bobcats. Recently, we saw a bobcat walking down the creek with a dead rabbit hanging out of its mouth. And so we are really in the middle of nature here. So we do a lot of just relaxing and socializing in this room. We played chess with my son here. We listened to records. We brought in a vintage record player recently, and so we listen to music in here all the time, and we just kind of relax and enjoy nature. So what really drove the design of the house was the land itself. I really used the property and the topography and all of the various environmental features to really drive the design. So now we're gonna move to the dining area and the kitchen. This slab is a black walnut slab. It's over 12 feet long. We brought this in a big U-Haul from San Francisco, and I had the base custom made and custom designed to actually mimic the natural curves of the live edge. So they're geometric forms, but they're made to mimic the live edge on both sides of the slab. And then these chairs are also living metal, so these also patina. I love the idea of wabi-sabi, where things are imperfectly perfect and they get better with time. So these chairs are always changing and getting more beautiful the more use and love they get. And this bench is also made in Italy. It was done by the same group that did the coffee table, and it's also 2 slabs of live edge wood that we blackened using this ancient Japanese technique, shisugiban. And that was something that I carried throughout the house. So all of the siding on the house, it's like a charred wood. And so I brought that indoors as well and did that with several of the furniture pieces, and this is one of them. And the lighting fixture I really loved because also the flowing and organic shapes of it just worked really well with a lot of the other pieces and with the roof itself. And one of the things that I love about being in the dining room is I love to be able to look at the ribboning of the roof. And on this corner, this roof is at 4 feet tall. And then on this corner it's at 16 feet tall. So it goes from 4 feet to 16 feet. It's really dramatic and you can really enjoy it when you're sitting at the dining table. So then the other thing I love about being in this room is being able to see the swimming pool here. And because we have the aquarium glass, it's just really fun to be able to sit and eat and then be able to enjoy the water and the outdoor seating area. I grew up in mid-century modern homes, and so that type of design always has had a special place in my heart. So I knew when I was designing a home from scratch that I wanted to have an ode to mid-century modern design. Things like the ceilings, which are tongue and groove and large wood beams, and a lot of glass and a lot of indoor-outdoor connection and clear story windows. Those are all things that I grew up with and that I loved, and so I knew that I wanted to incorporate those in the design. I also, one of my favorite things to play with design are actual roof structures and the shapes of the roofs, and you can do such beautiful things with roof shapes, and I think it's one of the missed opportunities in a lot of architecture is playing with the roof. So the roofs on this home actually drove the rest of the design. They are hyperbolic paraboloids, and there's 3 of them, 1 for each building. And so they have opposite high ends and low ends. So they actually twist in the middle. So the shapes of the roofs were really designed to mimic the look of a falling oak leaf. This property is full of red oaks, which are native, and they're all through the creek. And so the idea was that each of the boxes of the homes would be mostly glass so that they would disappear. And then the roofs would be in the shape of a falling oak leaf. So when you were looking at the residence from further up on the site and you were looking down at the residence, it would look almost like leaves kind of falling. And that's why the name of the house is the Falling Leaves House. I really wanted the ceilings to be the hero of the home. And so a lot of the furniture and a lot of the rooms are much more monotone and quiet and minimalist. And that way your attention is really drawn to the beautiful Douglas fir wood ceilings. And so the kitchen is all done in a matte black. We have a huge island, which we love. We entertain a lot. And so we're able to have, a lot of food and drinks on the island. It's actually over 12 feet long and over 6 feet wide. So it's nice and big. And then we have all Gaggenau appliances, which are really wonderful to cook with. So since the island is so big, we brought in a 48-inch trough sink, and it comes in really handy. You can use one side for preparing all your fruits and vegetables and so forth. And then the other side is where everything else goes, waiting to be washed. So we did an induction cooktop, and we worked really hard with our craftsmen to get this flush so that you don't feel anything. It's a detail that took a really long time to execute, but it came, I love the details, and so that was something that we spent a lot of time and effort on. And then we did the downdraft in the island so that we didn't have to have anything else coming from the ceilings. We were really trying to keep the ceilings as clean as possible, and so I didn't want anything hanging from it. So we did this downdraft in the island, which works really well. And then we did the full set of Gaggenau appliances. So we have the espresso machine. It makes all kinds of different things. It's amazing. And then we did a warming drawer, which we actually get so much use out of. We've never had this before, and it's something that we really love. And then we did full-size convection oven. We did a steam oven, and we don't have a microwave. So trying to be a little bit healthier in our food warming. Now instead we use the steam oven for everything. And then we did a vacuuming drawer, which is for sous vide cooking. So you vacuum, your fish, your vegetables, whatever it is, here first, and then you put it in the steam oven, and it's proper sous vide. And then I love really minimalist things, and so I don't really like a lot of hardware. And so Gaggenau makes these incredible refrigerator and freezer units where you can just push and they open without needing handles. And so this is our freezer column, and then this is our refrigeration column. So these bar stools, they are shaped as origami, and so they almost look like they would fold as an origami, paper would. And this is also made out of living metal, so these patina over time. And what's nice is you can really see how many parties you've had and how many events you've done, because it starts to change and patina with time and with usage. So we tried to be really light on the land and not touch the rimrock wherever possible. And so you can see here, I love to look at this from the kitchen. You can see the entire foundation is floating over the rimrock. And so where the foundation of the home touches the ground is past the point of the rimrock, and then over the rimrock, the entire building floats right over it. I decided to have multiple buildings for the home because I wanted to interact with the creek as much as possible. It's a long creek that runs the entire length of the property, and it's really beautiful, and it's about 20 feet below us. And so in order to have the most interaction with this really incredible creek and landscape, the idea was to splay the different buildings somewhat informally along the edge of the rimrock, or along the edge of this creek. And then the middle building juts out vertically and cantilevers over the creek. And so that was kind of the best way to see. Got some really beautiful seeping fern and moss walls, and then a waterfall on the other side. And so it was very, very specifically placed so that then you can see both of those things. Now I'm going to show you the primary bedroom. Follow me. So something else that's super cool about our hallway is this transition. We made the front door, which is right here, to be directly across from the entrance of the creek, so you can walk right through the front door, through the slider, and then go down into the creek. Before we get to the primary bedroom, I want to show you this hallway. It's something that I enjoy so much. So you can really see the parabolic roof. You could see it ribboning down as your eye goes down the hall, and then at the very end of the hall, your eye ends at this really beautiful red oak tree, which has really had this beautiful sculptural twisted trunk. The other thing I love about this hallway is we did this with this all natural limestone plaster. And this plaster, it actually breathes and it filters the air. So if you did it on just a wall or two, it wouldn't make any difference. But if you did it through the whole house, which we did, the actual air quality of the house is so much improved because of the filtering capacity of the plaster. Welcome to our primary bedroom. It's small but mighty. It's a really minimalist space. There's nothing in here that we don't need. It's completely surrounded by glass, and the building itself is cantilevered over the edge of the creek. So while you're laying in bed, you literally feel like you're floating out into the creek. We did a fluted white oak wall as an accent wall. And we also did the blackening shisugi bond technique on the white oak. So I designed this bed. I wanted to have a lot of storage space. I didn't want to have any other furniture in the room, like nightstands or dressers. And so there's these massive drawers that just like keep going and going and going. And there's 4 of them. We have 2 here, 2 on the other side. And then all of the whole top of the bed also has tons of storage space. And then also the foot of the bed, this also opens up and is also storage. And so you can just fit so much stuff in here. Yeah, the bed is like all storage. We did this also with a blackened walnut as well. And my favorite part of the bedroom is out here from the deck. You can actually see how beautifully the bedroom itself cantilevers over the creek. There's so many things that I love about this home. It was years and years of putting all of my heart and my love into this design and into the build. So it's hard to pick one thing, but if I had to, I would say that it is the interaction with nature and with the creek, and the way that it is the various volumes and shapes are designed in order to best interact with nature. Welcome to the primary bathroom. So my favorite part of this bathroom is a bathtub. It's all one piece hand-carved stone. And we cut the actual building back. Later on in the design process, this building went all the way back to the bedroom. And then later on in design, we actually cut the building back so that when you're sitting in the bathtub, you have glass in front of you, glass on the side of you, and you really have a beautiful view while soaking. I also really love that this whole wall is glass. It's really private, and so it just feels really nice when you're showering to have the glass, be able to see nature. This opens up so you can also hear the water from the creek below, which is really nice too when you're sitting in the bath. So I really tried to use organic shapes as much as possible. So with the tub itself, it's, asymmetrical, curved, more organic in nature. And then I found these sinks that are also asymmetrical and really sort of mimic the shape of the tub. and have these kind of beautiful curves. And then the faucets themselves are also, they're hand blown glass. And so they're imperfect and also organic in shape. They kind of twist. And then you can see the water, there's a vortex right here. And that's where the hot and the cold water are mixing. And so it's kind of fun to see. It's another way to bring the water element into the home. We had the water in the creek, and so we've tried to bring more water into the home as well. And so one way we did that was with the bathroom faucets. So I think what gives this home soul is really the thought and the energy that went into designing and building it. And every little corner and detail was so intentional. And it was intentional in every way, both from an aesthetic and a design standpoint, but also from trying to be as light on the land as possible and trying to conserve nature as much as possible. And so we went through great lengths to save every single tree that we could possibly save. And we really meticulously would just carve only the branches that we needed in order to get the building in. And so the building really is hugged and wrapped by nature. And we have various sitting areas that it really has this feeling of embrace by nature. We also have all of our foundations are floating because the rimrock that's underneath it is thousands of years old. And so we wanted to do everything we could to disturb it as little as possible. And so we really tried to keep nature as intact as possible. And then we went back in after the build and we did a lot of work to get everything to thrive again and to really feed nature and to make it even healthier than it was before we got here. Now I'd love to show you the pool house. Let's go. This is our pool house. The office is in here as well. And the pool house for us is really multi-use space. We have a lot of guests that come in from out of town. And so this whole back wall here is actually a wall bed and closet and cabinetry space. And then for our friends that stay with us that have kids, then this sofa folds down as well and it turns into almost a queen size sofa. So it really sleeps comfortably, at least 3 or 2 adults, 2 kids. It's gotten a ton of use. And this coffee table is a slab that I actually got in Mexico. And then I found this really beautiful stone base for it. So I've really tried as much as possible to use all natural and organic materials for all of the furniture pieces, the wall coverings. And so we did that with the table and the base. And then the walls in here are also the natural lime plaster. We did these in a gloss black, which is a hand-done technique to build a gloss in it, but it's also filtering the air just like the plaster in the main house. We also do music production, and so we have all of our equipment in here, and then lots of desk space that wraps around the whole office, and there's a punch out so that the glass and the desk itself sits proud of the building. And this is actually where my favorite view of the entire house is from this room. There's these massive boulders that are down here in the creek that are just so beautiful. And when we have a rain, we have a really strong waterfall that comes over these boulders. And then there's incredible maidenhair fern filled the creek and the boulders. And then on this side, we have this gorgeous rim rock, and there's a really big cave under that rim rock, and that's covered with moss, which is really quite unusual for Central Texas because of the heat. But somehow the environment here, the moss really thrives. And then I brought in this stone tub. This is a really traditional Japanese soaking tub. And so that's right back here. And it's so nice because when you're in there, you just are completely private, separated from everything else, and you can just sit, relax, and then look over at the creek. So all of the cabinetry in the house, we don't have hardware on them. And so we used the same kind of very minimalist push to open doors and drawers. And then we tried to integrate the lights as seamlessly as possible. So we put them at the top of this. This is a full steel surround for the desk itself and the punch out outside of the building. And so we integrated the light into that. And I really prefer to have very clean lines, very minimalist, instead of having a lot of lights hanging from the ceiling. So it's not a pool house without a pool. So now I'm going to show you our pool area. Okay, so in an effort to also bring more of the water element up to the house level, we decided to do an aquarium front on the pool. This was surprisingly really hard to execute. There's only a few companies that actually do this. One is in Florida, who they do like all the theme parks, and then the other one's in Vegas, who does like the casinos and the big aquariums and the casinos. And so this was one of those things that was like a labor of love to figure out how to get this done. But it turned out really great at night. It's amazing with the lights on. We've set up a table and chairs out here, like really romantic, intimate dinner. And then having the lights in the water is really beautiful atmosphere. I love it out here also because you could hear the water running in the creek below. Always sounds amazing. And then there's all the nature sounds at night. You can hear the frogs. Right now you can hear all the birds chirping, and it's just a really lovely place to sit and hang out. We have our fire pit area here, and we did a sunken fire pit area with lots of cozy pillows around the benches. And then I designed this to work with the geometry of the patio itself. And so it's in a trapezoidal form, and there's plenty of space on it where we'll put like bottles of wine and ice buckets and like charcuterie boards and things like that. And so this is another space that gets a ton of use. I have a minor obsession with boulders and with stones. They're all so unique and they all tell this really incredible story. And so during the build, whenever we would find these big boulders in the earth during excavation, I would have them save them for me, and then I ended up integrating them all into the design. And so, for example, this is one of the largest ones that we got. And so we built this up, we leveled it underneath before we did the slab pour. And so we leveled this boulder and then we poured the concrete around it. So the idea is that it looks like it was always there and we just left it where it was, and then we poured the concrete around it. We did the same thing with this one here. And then we did the same thing with this one here. And I love the way that the steps, the wood steps, are carved around the boulder. So again, the idea is that they were here before we were here, and then we left them undisturbed and built around them. And there's many, many more examples of that. So we have another one here at the entrance to the patio. We have them by the front door, each flanking the front door. And then we have this really big one built into the deck, and it's pointing to the entrance of the home. So of all of the different pieces of the entire project, this is my absolute favorite one. This is our outdoor dining table, and the slab itself was a sentinel tree in the Italian Alps that was struck by lightning. And so we've only used wood that was already down. We did not have any trees cut to make any of our furniture. And so this tree was struck down by lightning. And then this whole opening in the middle is where the lightning bolt hit and cracked the tree. And I didn't want to cover that. I loved it so much. And so instead of covering it, what we did was we created these geometrical forms. They're kind of slats. And so they're open so that you can see where the tree was struck. And they hold, though, the two pieces together to keep the stability. The other thing that's so amazing about this table are the legs. So these legs are hand-blown smoked glass. One of the top master glass blowers in Italy is this 90-year-old man in Venice, and he did these legs by hand. They're made out of borosilicate glass, which is the strongest kind of glass. It's the glass that is in airplanes, like airplane windows and so forth. So they're really strong. But what I loved about it was that you have this really hefty, weighty slab, and then it's like seamlessly held by these really light glass legs. And that's why I chose these chairs, which are also from Italy. I chose these as well for the very lightness, smoked glass, translucent look that they provide. Okay, so the other thing that I really love about being in this outdoor space is how you really get to see the cantilever here. This is over a 20-foot cantilever, and so we're really floating over the creek here. Home to me is really a personal sanctuary. It's a place that I feel safe and that I feel comfortable and that I feel rejuvenated in. When I come home, it's like a breath of fresh air. When I leave, I actually don't want to leave. It's just a place that I enjoy so much, and I really feel like I'm at home.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.